Hoaxes have been a huge thing in the FNaF fandom ever since the first game came out. As someone who's been a fan of the game since 2014, I've seen them all filter out. Things like Sparky the dog, Nightmare JJ, or the purple guy being in the FNAF 2 office were all pretty big hoaxes at the time. This was mostly due to how new and impressionable the fandom was. People nowadays are much more skeptical whenever it comes to a newly discovered quote-unquote hoax. Due to this, hoaxes have been a bit of a dying medium ever since FNAF 3 came out. Recently though, hoaxes have had a bit of a resurgence, which is mostly because of TikTok. And no, this doesn't include things like Blue Withered Toy Chica, which is obviously a joke. Though, before I get into explaining the modern hoaxes, I feel like I should explain what a hoax is in the first place. A hoax, in the context of how they were used within the FNAF fandom, is a video or screenshot that is designed to trick people into believing that something deliberately false is true. With that being said, I'm gonna get into what hoaxes look like nowadays. This video is going to feature stuff from 2021 to 2024, as that is what I consider modern Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm gonna start this off strong with something that was more impactful to FNAF fans than the release of Help Wanted 2. FNAF Ransomware. This ransomware video was made by Fever Dreamer Team, or FDT, in February of 2024, and actually had a pretty big controversy involving the use of AI in it, which I'll get into after I explain what the video was. The video starts with someone typing into a notepad about how they found a free copy of the second FNAF game. As the game opens, instead of Five Nights at Freddy's, it says Five Nights at Freddy Setties. The player then starts the first night, but the only animatronic present is an AI-generated version of Freddy. After playing the game for a little bit, the player gets jump scared and their computer restarts. After their PC boots back up, this screen shows up. And as you can see, it's pretty interesting. As someone who has a massive fear of computer viruses, this should be terrifying to me, but I just can't take it seriously. The point of the video was to recreate a dream that the creator had, and I think that it would have been so much more effective if FTT didn't use AI on it, because in my opinion, the AI makes it look like a shitpost. It is a shitpost. Huh. That actually does check out looking at FTT's other videos. However, something really impressive that this video has done is create its own subgenre of FNAF content on YouTube. If you look up FNAF Ransomware on the YouTube search bar, you'll find a ton of videos of people's own renditions of it, be it a recreation of the original video or FNAF World Ransomware. There's tons of high quality art of people's own ideas inserted into FNAF Ransomware. Hell, people have even made games based off of FNAF Ransomware. It's even spread to other communities, which I think is very impressive for a simple 4-minute video. Like, it's even gotten to FNF mod. I feel like that's a pretty telltale sign that something's made it big. That's not to say its reception has been entirely positive though. Ransomware was heavily criticized for its use of AI and its lack of actual horror elements, which honestly, I agree with. Nothing about the video scared me, and seeing Five Nights at Freddy Setties or anything else of the sort just makes me laugh more than anything, to be honest. Like, just take a look at this guy. He's more cute than scary, really. Overall, FNAF Ransomware isn't my favorite thing, but I will admit that it has had a positive impact on the community. It's inspired so many people to try to make their own version of what they think FNAF Ransomware should look like, and for that, I applaud it. It's kind of like a new-gen FNAF VHS in a way. It's also very closely tied with what I'll be going over next, FNAF Stingray. Now, Stingray actually was a thing. Well, sorta. It was a FNAF 2 APK with a Trojan inside of it which would encrypt all of your files whenever you beat the game. However, the Stingray that we see nowadays is all fake. And as far as I'm aware, the original virus is no longer flying around. The main reason that Stingray blew up is because people would post TikToks of it saying that it's real, so a lot of people still do believe that Stingray is in fact going around. I've gone on multiple social media platforms and seen people wondering if their copy of a FNAF game that they got on Steam had the Stingray virus. And honestly, I'll give it props for that. It's one of the few hoaxes that I've seen scare people. Now, getting into what these fan-made Stingrays look like, it's incredibly similar to Ransomware. The oldest Stingray video I can find on YouTube was made by Partymetric, so that's the one I'm going to be referencing for this video. It starts with a very similar premise to Ransomware, with someone finding a free copy of FNAF 2, but as they beat the game, They get jump scared by an eyeless version of Withered Chica as their screen fades out. The music box can be heard in the background, but as the music ends, the puppet jump scares the player. I will say, I think this one is slightly more believable than Ransomware, as there's nothing as obviously fake as Freddy Setties. It's also been sharing its subgenre of fan content with Ransomware, so I'm gonna group these two together. This next one is the only genuinely scary hoax on this list. This green bear has haunted me for a month. Everywhere I go, I see him. It's Emerald Freddy. Now, Emerald Freddy is something that is incredibly recent, with it only being created in March. This one's also more of an obvious joke hoax, but I feel like I still have to mention it just because of how prominent it is in the community. There's so much genuinely amazing work involving fucking Emerald Freddy of all characters, which I kinda love, to be honest. Like this, for example. Fliptrap is a hoax that was used as a social experiment to prove two things. Firstly, to see if people in the community still fell for hoaxes, and secondly, to prove that anyone could make one. Fliptrap was a quote-unquote leaked glitch trap model that was created by Master W. Fliptrap was presumed to be the next form of glitch trap, both existing in the physical world and in the flipside realm. Now, we never actually got context on what the flipside realm would be like, but I think a safe assumption is that it would be similar to Ruin's Misc. Something kinda crazy about this is that this was generally the only hoax that had people convinced during the security breach era. I am gonna note that it was so convincing only because of the massive content drought, though. There's not much else to this hoax, but it's supposedly in addition to another hoax called From the Flip Side that I can't find anywhere. What was Scott hiding from us, or more popularly known as Five Nights at Freddy's is Hiding Something, originated from a TikTok around a year ago. They all follow a similar formula of showing a Five Nights at Freddy's related image, and then brightening it up to show a distorted figure of an animatronic in the background. This trend mostly became a thing because of this TikTok, and after this one released, tons of others started to make their own version of it. To be honest, I really like this one. It's never scared me, but I always thought it was sort of a fun thing for the community to look at and do. It's kind of heartwarming in a way to look through the comments on these posts and see people be scared. It's like 2014 came back in the best possible way. Shadow Bonnie being in Ruin is a really funny hoax, actually. This one originated from a Markiplier video that came out during the early days of Ruin, where one of the TVs was edited to have a picture of Shadow Bonnie's face on it. Now, onto something that was actually a massive talking point in the FNaF community, and even got 2 responses from Scott Cawthon himself. Just from that description, you probably already know what I'm talking about. The Talbert Files. The Talbert Files were supposedly an unreleased version of the Freddy files that someone had somehow received a physical copy of. This unreleased version of the Freddy files seemingly fixed a lot of plot holes that the lore had, or just had more interesting ideas than what we actually got, William Afton's motivations being my main example. The big lore drops in the Talbert Files were, there was this character named Emmett Tucker who actually does show up in a book that was released in 2021. Emmett Tucker and Cassidy, his child, took the roles of Henry and Charlie Emily, respectively, who both didn't exist until Sister Location. Another big lore drop is that Cassidy originally was supposed to possess both Golden Freddy and the puppet. Cassidy was also the kid that drew both Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, and also died on Halloween. The Talbert Files also revealed the phone guy's name, which is Steve Callahan, Steve Callahan was a family friend of Emmett and Cassidy. I think the most interesting lore drop is this though. Emmett was actually blamed for the missing children's incident. The dead children incident was also revealed to be teenagers and not children. However, where I think that the Talbert Files shined is on its characterization of William Afton.
For all my mortal life, I have not been able to fully grasp exactly why I do not feel the things that are deemed normal. In fact, all I feel is rage toward others who do not deserve the life they have been given, not taking advantage of what lies beyond tangibility. Despite the death of my very own son, I feel no sorrow, no regret, no pain, and the burning fury within me continues like a rolling thunder. But rage will not get me anywhere, not unless I mend it into something else. If there is meaning to life, if there is a purpose to all the hardships and sorrow, it will remain an elusive dream. For some, the mystery of death and the afterlife is frightening and overwhelming. But I have learned to embrace those unknowns. If anything deserves the name God, it is the very laws of nature themselves. The only universal truth, the only higher powers we must all bow down to, before our time runs out. Every place he walked, and every tear he shed left its effect in reality. Truly, one cannot die if there remains a piece. It is only part of them that dies. I will replicate this, and I will create something with the power to give the gift of life. I simply just need a volunteer. Perhaps that Tucker girl. She shines too much of a bright smile. She's a container for love that will soon burst. I will repurpose her.
Now, the controversy on the Talbert Files was on its validity. There was supposedly only one copy of it and only a few people have seen it. The discussion around it got so intense that Scott Cawthon had to drop 2 responses, and even then people were still wondering if he was trying to cover up the Talbert Files. Scott Cawthon's responses were,
"Everyone, listen to me very carefully. I love this community, you know that I do. But I do not have the time or energy to comment on every drama post that pops up on the Reddit. I have no idea what the Talbert Files is. I haven't read it, nor do I plan on reading it. More importantly, if I ever wanted to give clarification on anything, parentheses, like I am doing now, close parentheses, I would do it through a Reddit post and not through a personal email. I have something fun planned for the 10-year anniversary. I have something fun planned for the 10-year anniversary of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I hope to post about that soon. Okay, everyone, here is my official statement concerning the Talbert Files. As I said elsewhere, I do not know what the Talbert Files is. I haven't looked at it yet. I never said it was fake, though, despite the emails I'm getting. We are talking about 2017, and that's a long time ago. If it is an unpublished version of the Freddy Files, like everyone says, then it was obviously rejected. Lots of stuff gets rejected. One thing that everyone needs to keep in mind is that a lot of companies that I work with come up with products from time to time that try to fill in the gaps of the lore. They essentially create new lore and trying to create a product. This happens a lot more than you may realize. Most every time this happens, however, I step in and say, no, don't create lore, just focus on established lore. Even a detail as small as EST1983 on a t-shirt, I'll say no. Don't include an established date, because that confuses the lore. companies do not realize this. They have good intentions. All of this is to say that, yes, it is possible that the Talbert Files is an old version of the Freddy Files. But if it is, it was obviously rejected. Anytime you see an unpublished book or unpublished screenplay or even scrapped merchandise designs, try to keep in mind that a lot of these ideas get scrapped because they are simply bad ideas. Parentheses, I have enough bad ideas on my own, semicolon, I do not need help, close parentheses. The other problem is that I've seen emails supposedly by me that were not written by me. I do sometimes reply to emails, rarely. However, the one that I've seen posted on Reddit and the one sent to me privately by members of this Talbert group is a fake. It wasn't written by me. There are too many obvious giveaways. Please don't harass anyone over this. I think there is a lot of confusion over this, obviously, but I don't think anyone has intended to cause problems. Edit, colon. Okay, comma, I've been looking through some of the Talbert Files pages. I couldn't find any downloadable versions, but I watched YouTube videos browsing through it. I can confidently say that the Talbert File is fake, and not an unreleased Freddy Files. It looks completely unfamiliar to me, and not something Scholastic would have put together. It also mentions characters that weren't created until years later. Pretty sure it is fake, folks.
Even if the Talbert Files do end up being real, it doesn't really matter. Sure, I love some of the ideas that it has, but again, they wouldn't change anything about the current series. That's pretty much every modern hoax that I've seen gain any sort of traction. The reason there were tons of hoaxes in the first few years is because of how little people knew about the games, but no one nowadays is going to fall for things like Withered Balloon Boy or Freddyland. I do think it'd be fun if hoaxes suddenly became more convincing, but I don't think that's possible. Now, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.